Welcome to our Open Mic. We're going to kick it off now. We do this call because MSPs asked us. They wanted to see what we're working on with the platform, what's new, what bugs we fix, and you folks wanted to do some R&D or rob and duplication of automations that your peers have built. Hey, if you're interacting with us in Discord, please reply to us or tag us. We're monitoring hundreds of channels at the same time, and we're likely to miss. And speaking of Discord and interacting with us, it's super important to ask questions. My favorite part of my opening dialogue is when I count the number of MSPs that have been successful with automation who have never asked a question. And I typically count them. It's like 1, 4, 10, 22, 0. 0 MSPs have ever succeeded with automation without asking a question. So if you're not asking questions in our Discord, either your private channel or the public channels, that's probably an anti-pattern to your success. I was able to work anti-patterns in there. Also, please normalize Discord. It's just an evolution to human communications, just like everything else we do here. Before the radio, it was Morse code, then radio, then phone calls, then email, then Slack, right? And then Discord. Notice Teams was nowhere in there in that evolution. It's an evolution.
Yes.
It would be much, much cheaper for us as Rewst to turn off the Discord. We have all these people that are monitoring the channels and interacting with you in real time. It's not inexpensive. We do it because we believe you will be more successful if you interact with us in real time and with your MSP peers. Also, don't forget about Flow. I think we announced some of our gold and platinum sponsors, and thank you to the gold and platinum sponsors for Flow. If you haven't submitted a call for papers, Flow is one of those conferences where everyone in the room wants to see you succeed. And if you want to improve your career, no matter what it is you want to do, you want to get to management, you want to be the best technical person within your team, all of that includes talking publicly. If you can't share your ideas publicly, how would you convince leadership to let you spend time on this highly technical thing that you want to do? If you want to be management someday, if you can't public speak, how are you going to convince a group of people that they need to go execute on your vision? So the folks at Flow, it's a great place to practice. There'll be hundreds of people there. None of them want to see you fail. And they're genuinely interested in what you have to say. So please put in a call for papers. If you've never done a call for papers before, please reach out to anyone at Rewst, and they'll get you to someone who can help you do a call for papers submission. All right. I think that's all of the things I wanted to talk about until I remember. Oh, here's a couple things. We're doing a kickoff next week. So I'm going to trade with you folks. We're not going to do an agendaed open mic next Friday. We're also going to try to be as responsive as we normally are in Discord. But we're likely to make a mistake. We're going to have the entire company in the same room. So just please be kind. If it says super fire in your end, of course, we're going to, pull in as many people as possible, as quick as possible to help you. But please be kind and give the team a chance to respond to your messages. It's only a week. We only do this once a year. It's not a common occurrence. Now, what I'm trading you with is we have some really cool bounties for really cool stuff that we want to make for you folks. And if we get winners to these bounties, we'll have them present on the open mic, and so you can see what some of the stuff is that's coming down the pipe. And with that, I think I'm done. Ash, what's up?
Awesome. All right. Thank you. So we were talking about the open mic, and then next week, like Aaron said, it's not going to be an agenda. Slagle had a good idea of making it a pirate theme. So like, we'll come and think about if you've got something that you want to show off that maybe you're afraid to have other roosters see, or you don't want Aaron to yell at you or something. Just maybe next week is the time to show that off. But for today, to start with, Daniel is out, so we are going to have our favorite pizza give our dev update. Woo!
Howdy,
Wow.
howdy. Let me go ahead and share my tab here.
Pizza
So,
is currently in third place, by the way, on all the bounties. Don't mention the bounties, though, Pizza.
Yeah, I won't, Aaron. I won't mention that you've completely rigged them against my favorite. But tons of new stuff on the way for you guys. We have the Enable Insight integration. I believe that has been released. Correct me if I'm wrong, if Brooke's on the call. Some other things that we were able to do, some of you guys noticed in the Coop, we redesigned some of the chips that are on the workflows page to be a little bit more in line with each other, a little bit more unified, and offer a little bit more functionality in terms of things that they can direct you at. We added functionality to remove trailing white spaces from org variables, updated the export format for the dashboard CSVs, updated one of the Acronis actions to remove, well, actually add the mention that it's only for on-premise installations. We had some questions about that, and some people were trying to use it in cloud managed ones, and unfortunately that's not available there. We enhanced the messaging for errors and things like that in the trigger criteria tester, and are continuing to improve upon, and I'm not sure if this was just released, but cloning and syncing of app builder apps. Some bug chores and chores that we are pushing out and have pushed out. We fixed a bug causing some workflows to run twice from app builder pages. Removed the add page for synchronized clones. That was kind of a misnomer since synchronized clones cannot have those things added. We did some fixes for triggers and tags for both EmiBot and App Builder. We fixed an issue with integration overrides not properly cloning when workflows were cloned with triggers. Did some additional updates to some Halo PSA, as well as both Connect Secure, Ninja, and custom integration actions. I posted about that in the custom integrations channel in Discord if you want some more information there, as well as some upcoming things. We pushed out a fix for some toast messages, which were causing some issues with pages like custom integrations v2. And just in general, improved our test coverage a little bit for our automated testing and things like that. And some things behind some feature flags. Mentioned a couple weeks now, the generic GraphQL is still under testing. We have our GitHub integration on the way, more granular form submissions, which I believe we will have a demo of right after this, and as well as our SQL database integration refactor. That is on the way as well as being tested. And with that, I believe I can go ahead and pass it to Tori if she's on the call.
Hey,
if not,
Tori, while you get ready, I forgot some announcements about this weekend about our deploy.
Cool.
First off, we are working on replacing our engine that powers the Rewst messages. Right now we use Kafka, and we're not happy with its performance. And this weekend, we are putting in place disabled RabbitMQ. So we're putting all the code in place. We're putting all the infrastructure in place. And so we're very close is what I'm trying to tell you folks. In the coming weeks, when we go to turn on and enable RabbitMQ, we'll likely have to schedule a 15 minute to 60-minute downtime on a weekend. It'll probably be a Saturday. We'll try to give you folks as much advance notice as possible. And then for the Rewst folks, do we know, are we still planning to do the app platform upgrade this weekend that we had sent a message out?
Yeah, we do.
Okay. The message read like it was going to be like a multi-hour event. I don't expect it to be a multi-hour event. It should be something measurable in minutes, but we post multi-hour in case there's a problem.
Yep.
All right. Sorry, I shouldn't have called it app platform. It's app builder. Ian corrected me.
All right.
All right.
Let's
Thank you.
get to Tori's demo now.
All right. Hi. Yeah. So just a quick update on something we've been working on in terms of access control. Once this feature is released, our access to all orgs as Rewst employees will be read-only by default, and will only have write access to your org if explicitly granted. Yeah, so if you're working with our team and need some support, you can go into permissions here under settings, and you'll see, like I said, by default, Rewst support will be disabled. You can come in here and grant us write access. Just a note, doing this will grant us write access to this given org as well as any of its sub-orgs. And you can grant it indefinitely, which is what the case would be right now, or you can set an expiration. So depending on your use case, either way works. The default expiration would be an hour, but you can customize that however you need. And then you'll also see whenever we do have this write access enabled, you'll see this indicator in the bottom corner here telling you that we have write access at this time and how much longer we will have write access. Yeah, so this will improve security and ensure that you have control over who can make changes within your org.
That's so awesome. Thank you for the work. You built that feature, didn't you?
I did, yes.
Really good work. We're super excited. We show you this. I can't tell you when it will be in production. Someone may know, but we show you this to show you that it's done. We're just testing it. We want to make sure there's no issues. We don't want to accidentally lock people out of their tenant because we made a mistake. It's coming. We're trying to get it out as soon as possible. This has been a highly requested feature.
Thank you. Awesome. All right. So thank you, Jordan and Tori. Let's go over to JP for the marketplace update.
Hello. All right. This week we released two new crates. We have the alert on users without MFA enforced. Basically, this takes the logic of the report we did and puts it, adds the ability to create tickets based on that data. We also released this as a new crate. We had a crate that did updates, allowed you to modify from a form attributes for Azure users. Now we added on-prem support, and we released that as a separate version of the crate because we made pretty substantial changes to how the form works, especially. It works, it's much better than it was before, much more versatile in the ways that you can edit and manipulate users. And I think it's a bit more clear as well. We have a number of bug fixes for looks like a pretty wide variety of workflows, and they're posted here in the updates for folks to review if you're interested. And our coming soon item is the recreation of our Microsoft user onboarding and offboarding crates. These are done, and we're currently working on testing, which entails creating a bunch of users and then deleting a bunch of users. So we've been going through various iterations of that. That is pretty much what we've been working on. That's it for me.
Thank you, JP. All right. It is now time for us to get educated. I'm going to keep doing it. Sorry, Eddie.
That's fine. Hey everyone, happy Friday. Hope you guys are having a good week so far. Got good weekend plans coming down the pipe. But let's jump into the education updates. I am not Brandon, so I don't have a game tip of the week, but question for you guys in the chat. Who or which Pokemon is your favorite Pokemon starter? So favorite Pokemon starter. Go ahead and throw that into the chat as we go through our updates for this week. So shout outs to all of those who have taken certification for the foundations. We have Long, Ryan, Praj, Jeremy, and Chris. Congrats on passing the foundations certification. You get your nice badge, access to the super secret Discord channel. And for the clean automation certification, we got Robert, Tanner, Ekram, Benedict, Christian, Mackenzie, and Ember. So congrats to all of you guys for passing both of those certifications. Coming up at the first week of February, so kickoff and then week, and then February, we have our Rewst Foundations Bootcamp. So get up to speed with getting started with Rewst. What are the features? What do you need to know to really be dangerous with Rewst? That's what we're going to be focusing in on the Foundations Bootcamp, Part 1, Part 2. We got those links there for you. As always, always feel free to reach out to us in Discord. If it's education related, you can do @CluckU and then pick somebody. You can pick me, you can pick Clea, whoever you're most comfortable picking. Just pick someone if you need any education help. If you want that more hands-on, do it live kind of thing, we also have office hours on Thursdays. So sign up for that here at that link. Got a couple updates from the docs side as well. Again, a lot of cool things coming down, being updated in the docs. The one thing I want to add is Stuart's favorites. If you haven't seen Stuart's top 30 crates, there is a link in the docs for that. You can kind of see brief descriptions of everything that's going on. It's related to kind of the high value crates that we have to offer. So that's Stuart's favorites, one of the docs I wanted to highlight there. Last thing is we released a new course. And so the course is called Automation Basics. This is geared for those who might not have or need a refresher on some of those sort of baseline technical concepts, whether your technical skills are in something else or again need a refresher. The Automation Basics is designed to get you up to speed to some of the more technical concepts that you might need to know, like what are APIs, what's JSON, and things like that. All of that is here in Automation Basics. So again, you can hit the docs site, head over to Cluck University, and then it's over here on the left-hand side right here. So new course, Automation Basics. We got that link in the chat as well. So thanks, Clea. So those are the big updates. Again, because we're going to be on site next week, we're not going to have any trainings for the clean automation. So if you're interested in clean automation, we're going to kick that back up on the following week. So I think those are the big updates for education. So kick it back over to you, Ash.
Thank you, Eddie. All right, before we jump over, I'm just going to add my own anecdote here, the way I like to differentiate between CSV and JSON. CSV is like your data is lying down on a bed, and JSON is like it's standing out and able to stretch out its limbs. Anyways, now let's jump over to Charles. Charles is going to show us, actually, he's going to show us one of his first messy workflows, and then he's actually going to show us something else that they've done that's pretty cool.
Hello. You get evil, Charlie, today. I look too messy for the webcam, but let me share my screen. And it's this one. Perfect. So when we came on a Rewst, one of the first things that I wanted to do at this time, we were also switching all of our clients over from DNS filter to using Cloudflare and their DOH mode with the Warp client. And we were creating Cloudflare tenants individually. And in order to configure things properly with authentication, with the rules that we wanted to implement, I wanted to tackle that in Rewst. So this is actually the first thing that I did. I worked on creating custom integration v2 for the endpoints that we needed. And it's a mess. But it starts off in a really basic fashion. There's actually a form, which I'll show you here, that gets submitted. First, we're actually going to pick a ticket in our ticketing system to log all of the results to. From there, we have an options generator that'll actually pick up the zero trust account that we want to configure. We can say that we want to configure a custom block page because you can add some text. You can also add a custom image, which is what I've done here. And then you can point a image URL. We can also say if we want to actually configure the DNS filtering policies. And sort of why this is all separated was because at the time, certain of our clients that we inherited when we merged with another MSP, they had a Cloudflare already, but they didn't necessarily have everything, right? So on certain tenants, we only wanted to do certain things. But anyway, we can configure Warp authentication, which is, so that we install the program, it's actually talking to the right tenant and pulling the right policies. We also add that authentication information to a NinjaOne organization, their custom fields, so that it can be pulled by the conditional installer. We can configure the default Warp profile, which says like, hey, you should deploy, X certificate, and it should be in DOH mode, and et cetera, et cetera. And lastly, this is the newest addition, which was a while ago. We configure our KnowBefore domain exceptions, so that way, we utilize KnowBefore, and there's certain URLs, that we expect people to not click, but they do. Cloudflare blocks those, so we were getting false negatives on our monthly phishing tests. You can go and you can submit this, and let's see what happens. Bring this over here, and so I have our setup
Question?
Warp ticket from Rewst. Sure.
Are you also automating the installation of that certificate to the endpoints through something like Intune or through one of your other RMM tools too?
So Cloudflare will actually deploy it automatically.
In the Warp agent install? Okay, gotcha.
Yes.
You only have to sometimes
Now,
replace
that
it by
doesn't work.
upgrading, I'm guessing.
You can just self-sign it.
Yeah, it doesn't work for Mac OS because with the newer versions, you actually have to explicitly trust it unless you deploy it via MDM. So we do have to import those manually into Adigy currently.
That makes sense.
But you can see here some logging. We create the block page. It succeeded. Same thing here. We did the warp profile configuration. We created the know before domain exception list. We created our standard DNS filtering rules, security risks, some other stuff. We also added an allow list policy, which companies an allow list. And then from there, let me see if I can pull this up. Which browser are you in? Okay. I'm going to switch my share for a moment. And now you can see, for example, the firewall policies got created. They were all about, a minute ago. We can see that our list exists. Our know before domain list is pre-populated. Our domain list has nothing. We can go to the Warp client and we can go to enrollment permissions and see that there's an enrollment permission to allow a service auth token, which will exist here, which was created by API. It doesn't expire. And yeah, so if we look at the actual workflow, like I said, it's a mess. A lot of these, basically every single one of these, I want to turn into sub workflows. And I need to add a lot more logging. But this is the first hurdle that I had to tackle, and I think I did okay. So, any other questions on that? Bless you. All right, so the next thing I was going to show you, still related to Cloudflare, is since we have Warp deployed to all of our clients now, and we have all these, DOH enabled and these security policies, sometimes we get requests for someone to unblock a domain. Sometimes they're miscategorized. It especially happens with law offices because we block relationships essentially as a category, and lawyers' offices often get categorized by that. But anyway, let's say I want to go to Tinder. This is my go-to example. This should be blocked, and I get a block page here. And then there's this button that says contact your administrator.
Hey buddy, you're showing the wrong
Are
window.
you on a different?
I forgot to switch over. Sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. So we get a block page like this. There's a neat, little button here that says contact your administrator. If they have Outlook, that will bring up a preformed email that looks like this. And it said, you have a standard subject, and then it'll show, a bunch of information here. If we go ahead and send this, this will probably end my share. Go back here. Let me pull up the ticket. We will get a ticket that looks like this. Now, we do not grant our L1s and L2s permission to actually access the Cloudflare platform. We have a single account, like our infrastructure account, that actually holds the API keys. And then our infrastructure team has individual accounts, but that's it. We don't want to give anyone else access. But we do want to allow L1s and L2s to service these requests easily and efficiently. So we have this is brand new, a ticket ingestion workflow, right? And we It's via webhook from Halo. And we look for, a ticket that says unblock request in the summary, and then it has this sort of header in the ticket details. And if so, we kick off this unblock domain sub workflow, which should be here. And basically what we do here is the ticket JSON gets passed to it. Oops, didn't mean to do that. I'll do that later. Once we get the ticket, we parse out the request URL. And we also parse out the Cloudflare account ID, like the tenant ID. From there, we actually query the account or the API to get the domain allow list, I believe. And then from there, we actually go ahead and, oh no, I'm getting mixed up, sorry. We get the account details. We actually, as an option, create a simplified URL. So if someone submits like www.tinder.com, we give two options, that one and then just tinder.com, right? And then from there, we actually add a form link to the ticket, sort of with this pre-filled form that they can see. And if we go back and we click on this, we get brought to a form, and it gets pre-filled, and it says, by submitting this, you're going to add this domain to this Cloudflare organization, and you're going to log the ticket results to this ticket, right? So we can go ahead and submit this. And then what that does actually is that kicks it over to this very long thing that needs to get updated as well. But basically what it does is we actually get the agent who click the link, and then we triage the ticket and assign it to them. We add time to the ticket for them. We get the list for that organization, that's the domain allow list, and we do some error checking. We add that domain to the list with the ticket ID as a description so that we can reference it later. And then we log the addition to the ticket. We impersonate the agent and email the user, and then we close the ticket, right? So then if we go back here, we can actually see, Rewst for me said, hey, I submitted this form. It added 5 minutes for me. Rewst replied essentially and says, hey, I did the thing that I was supposed to. And then here it emailed me because I'm the one who submitted it. And it said, hey, we added this to the domain allow list. Let us know if there are any issues. And then from there, is this the right one? Yes. We can actually go to our domain allow list. And we can see now that Tinder is in the list. And the description is ticket ID. And it was added about, a minute ago. So this has made it very easy for us to have our dispatch essentially ingest these tickets, see like, oh, okay, yeah, this is totally legitimate. Click a button, it closes the ticket for them, and now I don't have to worry about it.
Can you talk a little bit about, in any given month period, how much time this may save your dispatch?
Okay, so we're really bad at the whole time savings thing, right? And it's primarily on me. I think we get roughly, we might get like one every couple of days. It depends. Usually once someone's like set in stone, we don't have to worry too much. On every ticket, it's at least saving, 15 minutes from them having to, manually dispatch it out and assign it to us on the infrastructure team, and then us having to log in, actually add it to the list, go in, close the ticket, right? So is the time savings substantial? It's not some massive number, no, but it does allow us to have a simplified formula for us to address these without actually having to take time away from the upper level employees.
Yeah, and like Linda pointed out too here, the use for this for access control purposes, as well as like empowering dispatch, like Alden said, those are huge value adds too, right?
Totally. And one thing I'm going to work on next actually is having a deny button form, essentially, so that we can, say, hey, we're not going to unblock this for, XYZ. Also one that will escalate to the primary contact, essentially, for the client, so they can go in and actually approve the request. Now, I don't think we've ever actually run into an issue where someone's requesting something and it either isn't legitimate or, it's questionable. Usually there's a very good business case for why someone's actually requesting it. So I haven't tackled that yet, but it's on the to-do list.
That's super awesome. Thank you so much. And thank you for showing us your first workflow. I know a lot of people are typically afraid of showing off their messes, but thank you. It's inspiring to see, and it was an awesome workflow. So thank you very much. Now we are going to go over to Devin, who is going to teach us what pigeons say. No, sorry. He's going to teach us a little bit about what he's been doing with IMI.
Cool. All right, let me get this up. This guy. So this started originally as let's see, where was my whole thing here? So we run a bunch of tasks in N-Central to function as like software compliance. So that we have a monitor that actually checks to see if IMI is installed, and then if it's not, auto heals using the deployment script and some custom properties for the install keys. Turns out there's a bug with the API endpoint that they opened for that, and it overwrote all of them. So this was the initial start, and then we had to actually rerun this so we could manually update it. When you go to deploy an IMI agent, it generates, where is it? This lovely little script that I have very much redacted. And you can strip out this ID and key and reuse this script multiple times and just shove those values in. Every time you go and regenerate it, a new key pair is generated, but all of the old ones are still valid. So this thing through just iterates over the tenants through the command that actually generates that script and extracts those out into a CSV. So then I have an ID and key pair with every client. So it's not very pretty or very large, but I feel like sometimes that's what some of these Fridays need, is just a quick iterate. I needed this data, and this was going to be probably just a matter of seconds, but across 200 clients is annoying. But then the start, once N-Central actually fixes their bugs and their endpoint, is then we will be shoving this into that actual value. Hiccup here is when you rerun these, you do get new key values every single time. So that is the fun part with that. But all of your old ones keep working. That's all. Nothing crazy. Any questions or anything?
Did you say something about this being on your GitHub?
I do have it published. I'll shove the link in somewhere. This guy. Yeah. Because yeah, it is just a pull tenant and then a custom interaction over the URL where it just generates that and then strips it all out, and so then it will output into
this assembly.
So yeah, we'll just put the keys into a CSV or into a list, but both of those will get output.
Hey, Devin, Ian wants to let you know you've got something in your hair.
Yes, I will. This was a discussion with Brandon and then an immediate purchase post flow. So hopefully, I need to get my passport renewed, is it will come with me this year.
You should submit a call for papers and wear that while you're giving your talk.
My boss doesn't want me to submit a call for paper, and I have no idea what I would actually discuss. So, yeah, that's it.
Matthew
Nothing totally
said,
crazy.
"Cool hat."
Who hat indeed.
Thank you very much. Awesome. So those were our 2 demos. So if anybody has any questions, you can ask them now. We've also got Tim, who can, I think, Tim, you're good. Can you show us a little bit about some of the tips and tricks on getting and setting org variables?
I can, unless somebody else has a different thing to show off. But I did have, let me go ahead and share. It's kind of a quick tip that we've gone over before, but I know we have a lot of new people who may not have seen this. And it's not something that's super exposed in the application. So it was, I forget when it was, but somebody had showed off a workflow they built where they need to kind of resolve an organization by its organization ID or by an ID from one of the applications that we integrate with. So I kind of want to talk about how we do that, how we do those mappings, and how you could make that simpler. So when you map an organization in Rewst, and this is our Pedro Aviary environment, our kind of our test environment. It's got a bunch of garbage in here, fake companies and things. But if we look in here, we have our ConnectWise manage, our ConnectWise PSA, as it's called now, integrated with this company, and we have some of our child organizations mapped. So say I have like some sort of thing to do, like maybe I've got a ticket in, and that ticket, I know the organization ID of the company in ConnectWise, so the company ID that the the ticket belongs to, but maybe I need to do something in another application. Maybe I need to do something in the RMM or in a security tool for that company. So one thing that we can do with organization variables is that we can actually do, I like to call it a reverse lookup. So kind of like a DNS reverse lookup where you know the IP address of something, but you want to see what the host name is. We can do a reverse lookup in organization mapping as well. So one thing that you may or may not be aware of is that whenever we map a company, there's an organization variable that goes with it. So in this case, for ConnectWise PSA, it's CW_managed_company_ID. You don't typically see that in the organization variables list because by default, we filter out the type of org variable that is, which is a system org variable. But we can look those things up using a workflow. So what I would do is look at the organization mapping, get the name of this org variable that we map, and that name will go here. Typically, when we do a lookup of an org variable, we may do the name and the organization ID and try to get the value from that. But in this case, I know the name of the variable and I know the value. I'm going to pick one that I know exists. So this company ID. And then if I run this workflow, look at the results, I see that we actually have, let me look at it in the real thing. I prefer this view. So we can actually see that we did a lookup of an org variable by its name and its value, and it returned back that entire organization variable. And so I can see that the org in question is a Rewsty org. I have its ID. It's also in the org ID here. So then what I can do is take that and use it in a, so say if I publish this as org var lookup, and then I can do I like to use set variable. Type it out, transform set variable, and I can set that to ctx at org var lookup, and then again look in here and get the org ID that I want from it. And I would set this as the maybe just org ID. And so if I publish that, add variable, and run this again, as long as I didn't mess it up. I see now that org ID has a value here. So now if I wanted to look up, say I wanted to, list computers, just in case I have a, I don't know if these guys are even in our manage or ConnectWise Automate, but we'll try it and see. And then I can do, I can run this as that org. And then it would run as that org. Or if I wanted to do like a maybe a graph action and just list all their graph users, I could do something like that by running it as that organization. So again, let me just throw something in here. Do list users, which I know will fail because they don't have a graph org. Again, the advanced tab, we can set run as org, and it'll run this task as that organization. So ctx.org ID. Just like that. So a little quick tip for those of you who are maybe acting on tickets and then you need to kind of resolve the ID that it comes from, or acting on some other alert where you know that some data in that alert or in that incoming request has the organization ID or the org variable mapping ID that corresponds with that company or that device. This allows you to reverse that. Any questions?
Thank you, Tim. I'm just scrolling up. No, that was a different, that was Alden didn't have a question for us.
There's a question from
Other
John.
questions?
Yeah, John Jones says, why would you use that set variable transform rather than using a data alias?
Yeah, so you can set a data alias like in a no-op or in a transition. One reason I like to use it, let me go ahead and reshare just to illustrate that. I'm a big fan of using that that action because if you look at it in the execution summary, you actually see it right here in the result where it got set. So it's a lot easier to troubleshoot, and if it fails, if you have an error in your Jinja typo or something, it does make it a lot more visible because you'll see that error message in the result tab rather than in the errors tab or alongside of the errors tab.
Yes, that's my favorite of all the transforms.
Yeah, it's like it's totally optional, but I'm a big fan of using it that way.
All right, any other questions that anybody has? Now's the time. We've got about 9 minutes left.
It's like Tanner has something. Oh, how do I do something with the cool form embedding?
Some cool form embedding. When you say embedding, do you mean like data embedding or?
I thought when Charlie was presenting, I saw something like one of the forms inside a Hoodoo KB. I may have misseen it, but if that's possible, I'd love to know how to do that.
Hoodoo actually supports embedding HTML as like an iframe. So basically, you can get the form URL and then wrap it in an iframe, I believe it is. And I think Rewst might actually generate that automatically, and just stick that in a KP article, and it'll just work.
Yeah. I think when you're collecting the link for the form, there's an option to choose the embed link, right? It's just /embed/ in there or something.
Yeah, let me show
Yeah,
it
I think
to
I
you
had to
guys.
change the size, but
So back to this. If I create a trigger, I'll just call this web or form trigger. And I change the trigger type to form. It'll show up like so. I'll just pick some random form here, and after we save it, I believe, when I come back to it, I see these URL. Like I see like the dynamic form URL. I see the direct URLs. The direct URLs are going to be a specific URL for each customer that you would go with. But you see this little code icon here. This is an embeddable version. I can get it for the generic version as well. And so if I look at how that looks, it's just going to be the iframe version of that. And you can set the height, width, and the border in that.
That's really helpful. Thanks.
Any other questions anyone has?
Is anyone working on a workflow and they're stuck?
If I
Logan
can make
says,
a
"Hi,
comment
Darren."
real quick about the iframe, whoever had a question about that, I implemented that for our team, and what I found really helped was to put it in a table and have like the form on the left, and on the right I put like, okay, here's what you fill in for this client for that form, like line by line, to help our tier ones just kind of fill out that form really easily.
Oh, that's a really cool idea.
Thank you for sharing. What else do folks want to know? There's no dumb questions. If you're wondering about something, somebody else says, "Well, Martin, your hand is up."
Yeah, so forgive me, I am brand new to Rewst. We just got our organization signed up for it, I think 2 weeks ago, maybe less than that. And still going through the university and everything like that. But one of the major items that's come up in terms of just thinking through how all this can work is that approvals seem like a really important workflow to figure out, where you can automate a whole bunch of stuff, but we want to have a human layer of verification that things are going right and things are going well. And there seems to be a lot of different ways to do that, but I don't know where where to start. I know that we want to potentially build in approvals into tickets in like our PSA. We want to build it into we've got our Teams Azure bot up and running. But I don't know what it should be. Is it generating dynamic webhooks and then waiting for a response on that, on like a success or failure, or what's the super high level? How does that work?
Well, I'll let someone smarter than me answer that well, but I do have to give you total props that you went straight to webhooks, which means you have a pretty good level of understanding even in your first 2 weeks. And the other comment I would say is, whatever the approval process is, make it your most simple one you ever can imagine for your first, right? You want to get your feet underneath yourself with something easy before you go to like your complete vision. And now for your actual answer, Tim, or does anyone else want to throw some pointers at Will?
So I had a distraction, so I missed some of the question. If you want to just recap, sorry.
Yeah, so I think the super short version is that it seems like there's a whole bunch of ways to do approvals. Like, I mean, Rewst is like, from what we've seen over the 2 weeks, it's the world is, on our plate to pick. So I just want to know, what are people doing for approval workflows? And when you're interjecting and you want that human layer of approval to then continue a workflow, what is the recommended way? What are people successful with?
Gotcha. Yeah. So there are, as you mentioned, there are many ways. The simplest is, if you look under the core actions, there's what's it called? Let me pull it up. Confirmation
You want
email.
to share your screen and show the action.
So yeah, it's under core, confirmation email is one of them. So I'll put it in here twice, which will just send an email, and in that email you can supply buttons like no or yes, and get those values. And then this will run, and you will get an email sent to whoever you want to send it to, and they can click a button on there that'll make the workflow proceed. That works
Does the
fine.
workflow actually pause at that core confirmation email until someone clicks it?
So yes, it will pause, and the downside of that is a workflow can only pause or can only run for about 30 days. So that's going to create an issue. If you want something that lasts longer, or if you don't have time to wait, or if it could be any amount of time. So that's going to be a limitation no matter what you use, if you want it to be a single workflow. The demo earlier had a great idea, whereas the best thing to do, I think, is to separate your request and your approve sections into two different workflows. And then you can create a trigger for that, whether or not it's approved, as a separate workflow. And so you would, maybe send your email. That email would have some links to maybe just a plain webhook trigger on a workflow as one way of doing it. Where, let me create a new trigger, I'll show you what that looks like. Webhook. And then that's going to generate a URL that will kick off that workflow. And so you could generate some content maybe with URL parameters, like approved equals yes or approved equals no, and reasons or things like that you could have as a clickable link that you would send to somebody that would kick off the next stage of that workflow. That way there's no limit to how long it can wait for that to be approved.
Top of the hour, I want to say a couple things. Will, if you get stuck with your confirmation email work, give it a shot. And if you get stuck, posting a private channel, and the ROC will come in and unstick you.
Yeah, the ROC has been awesome. I love being able to reach out in Discord, not only to the community, but to the ROC support team. It's been a really good process, and I have nothing but good things to say about it so far. So thank you guys very much.
Yeah.
Thank you. And for everyone else, Will did remind me that there are new folks on here, that they've only been using Rewst for several weeks. If you need help beyond the ROC, or if you realize you don't want to build automations, but you still want to be automated, we work with a number of folks who understand how MSPs work and the automations that they need. Some examples of those companies are Zentop and Raven. They can come in and build automations that you need. So if you want to contact from one of those companies, please ping us and we'll help you out. With that, we're 1 minute after. Reminder, it's an unagended open mic next week because we're doing our once yearly kickoff. Have a good weekend, everyone. Toodles.
Yes. Thanks, everyone. Bye.